much larger game.
You, of course.
Keep at it.
Frank Martin, better known by his call sign The Transporter, has returned to France, settling into a quiet retirement. These days, he spends his time enjoying peaceful fishing trips with his longtime friend, Inspector Tarkoni. Meanwhile, far away in Eastern Europe, Leonid Tomalenko, the Minister of the Environmental Agency, has been making a name for himself by pushing strong environmental protection policies. One day, he receives an unusual phone call from a stranger claiming to have been hired to negotiate certain trade permissions. Tomalenko, suspicious of the motive, refuses outright. He makes it clear that he will not allow the release of chemical pollutants into the environment, no matter how profitable it might be. The caller's tone changes. And he told Tomalenko he kidnapped his daughter. He then demands that Tomalenko reconsider and sign the contract within 24 hours, or face the consequences. Back in France, Frank is at home having a quiet evening, lazily watching random TV programs. His peace is violently interrupted when a car crashes straight into his house. The impact jolts him into action, and he goes outside to investigate. Inside the vehicle, he finds the driver severely injured. Checking the man's license, Frank realizes the driver is also a transporter. This instantly reminds Frank of an encounter he had just a few days earlier, when several shady individuals approached him to take on a job. Frank had turned them down, politely at first, before forced them to leave by physically overpowering them. Now, seeing the wounded driver, he suspects this is the very job he refused. Before the paramedics arrive, the dying driver begs Frank not to take him out of the car. But despite this, emergency responders load him into an ambulance. While inspecting the vehicle, Frank discovers a young woman inside. She tells him something shocking: both she and the driver were wearing explosive bracelets, designed to detonate if they stray too far from the car. Alarmed, Frank rushes to intercept the ambulance, but before he can reach it, it explodes in a massive fireball. Just as he turns to question the girl further, he is struck from behind and loses consciousness. When he wakes, Frank finds himself wearing the same deadly bracelet he saw on the others. He dresses himself, and soon after, a man named Jonas Johnson appears. Johnson explains the terms. Frank is to transport certain parcels for him, and if he disobeys, the bracelet will kill him. To make his control complete, Johnson returns Frank's car, but it's now fitted with GPS tracking and a detonation system. One wrong move, and Frank's vehicle will become his coffin. Johnson's orders are simple but sinister: keep the minister's daughter, Valentina, constantly moving until Tomalenko signs the contract. There's no specific destination, just perpetual travel. As they drive, Frank and Valentina talk briefly, revealing that she too was kidnapped against her will. Determined not to be a pawn, Frank deviates from the planned route and heads to a trusted mechanic friend for help. Johnson quickly notices the change in course and dispatches his men. As the mechanic investigates the bracelet, Johnson's thugs arrive, leading to a fight in which Frank effortlessly defeats them. Valentina, impressed by his skill and composure, begins to show interest in him. While Frank changes clothes, she playfully fixes his tie. The mechanic eventually discovers the truth: the bracelet cannot be removed, nor can its signal transmitter be disabled. If Frank wants to survive, he must follow Johnson's schedule. Angered by Frank's defiance, Johnson arranges for another driver to replace him. Frank is lured to a public phone, where the switch is set to happen. But Frank pursues on a motorcycle, engaging in a daring chase and ultimately ejecting the replacement driver from his own car. Meanwhile, Minister Tomalenko refuses to remain idle while his daughter is in danger. He mobilizes agents to locate her and delays signing the contract. The agents traced the GPS from the earlier transporter's car, gradually closing in on Frank. Tarcone, sensing something unusual about the case, also becomes involved. Frank calls him, sharing information while simultaneously calling Johnson to make it seem like he's compliant. Tarcone tries to use the call to track Johnson's location, but the conversation ends before they can pinpoint it. Frank is forced to continue driving to a new location. While stopping for fuel, he notices the minister's agents approaching. He quickly collects the drunken Valentina and speeds off. During the escape, he accuses Johnson of sending the pursuers after him. Johnson denies it, promising to find out who they are. In the chase that follows, Frank maneuvers between two blocking trucks, then deliberately slows to let an agent's car pass, only to ram it off a cliff moments later. This leads Frank to suspect the real cargo isn't in the trunk. Opening it, he finds nothing but books. The realization hits him, Valentina herself is the package. After surviving multiple close calls, Frank and Valentina grow closer, eventually becoming intimate. She explains that the previous driver had broken Johnson's rules to let her contact her father. Before she could speak to him, Johnson's men attacked, fatally wounding the driver, forcing him to seek Frank's help. Johnson contacts the minister, threatening him again, but Tomalenko insists on speaking directly to his daughter before signing anything. Johnson then sends Frank the coordinates for the next pickup. The next day, Tarcone meets with the minister and uses recorded calls with Johnson to narrow down his location. Meanwhile, Frank arrives at the designated bridge, where Johnson unlocks Valentina's bracelet but orders his men to kill Frank. Frank drives off the bridge into the river below. Johnson assumes he is doomed, either he will drown in the submerged car or detonate the bracelet if he tries to swim up. But Frank uses a buoyancy device from his trunk, inflates it with the tires, and floats the car to the surface. By the time Tarcone and the police arrive, Frank has already been pulled ashore. Johnson, now on the move again, takes Valentina onto a train to avoid police detection. He puts her on the phone with her father, giving Tomalenko 15 minutes to sign the contract. Tarcone passes the train's location to Frank, who speeds toward it. In a daring stunt, Frank launches his car from a bridge onto the top of the moving train. Fighting his way through the train cars, he nearly reaches Johnson but is stopped by the bracelet's detonation limit. Johnson exploits this by separating the train cars, forcing Frank to return to his car. Thinking fast, Frank rams the car back into Johnson's section, subdues him, and locks the bracelet onto Johnson's wrist. He then reverses the car away. Johnson frees himself, but before he can escape the blast radius, the bracelet detonates, killing him instantly. At 9 o'clock, with no police confirmation that Valentina is safe, the minister reluctantly begins to sign the contract, only to be interrupted by a call from Tarcone confirming her rescue. Tomalenko tears the EcoCorp contract to pieces. The illegal cargo ship tied to the deal is intercepted by the authorities and sent away from Ukrainian waters. Later, Frank returns to his peaceful fishing trips with Tarcone, though now Valentina joins them, teasing that they should eat at a restaurant instead.